negotiation.
Hello and welcome. I'm HG3 and we'll be streaming some match commentary from the Passiflora Championship, which just occurred over this past weekend. First off, we have the round of 64, which is very exciting for us because we're obviously in closed beta in Gwent and we're getting to see some competitive action. And moving forward, of course, there'll be lots of changes, but it's good to see what players are thinking now. Good to see how different matches are working out, even though many patches are to come that are inevitably going to change the way things work. But it's cool to kind of get a feel for what the competitive scene is going to look like moving forward. So, of course, I've done this through acquiring VODs from some of my fellow players that participated in the tournament. This game is our first game of the day. It is Mante XD versus Sigma 8D. And it looks like we have Ithni versus Radovid. So, Scoia'tael versus Northern Realms is probably one of the matches we were anticipating, or two of the factions we were anticipating the most coming into this tournament. Looks like pretty standard opening from Mante. Throws down an ambush unit, going to stack the back row with a Hawker support, which is interesting to play in the current meta. Of course, this tournament is allowing for side decks, so he could swap it out if he runs into a removal deck, but the risk of running a Hawker support into removal seems pretty steep right now. At 2 health, it's taken out by everything, including Stemmelford's Tremors, which means that against the Mirror, it will be a very low-value card. But he's fortunately run into a faction in Northern Realms which uses less removal than the other factions typically do.
Not a bad idea.
Now, this Northern Realms deck is really interesting. The Raw Open Siri is a play you don't see that often from Northern Realms. He's running Radovid and he's against Ithni, so Siri does represent one of the safe ways to gain card advantage against Scoia'tael, in that you don't have to play into Ithni's side of the board, so it's not replayable by her in this version of the game. Looks like Mante is getting some mileage on that Hawker support, but it gets taken out by Radovid. Not sure if that's a premature Radovid. He's only getting 8 strength on the removal. He could get punished if he runs into a Bork or something later on in one of the next 2 turns. So I don't know if that was premature or not. But you can see that Sigma's running some cards we don't see as often, but it's a very interesting mixture of a deck. Priscilla came out. He's rallying forward some of the Blue Stripes commandos, which we don't see as much because they don't stagger their own strength too well. But Northern Realms has an abundance of tools to assist in the staggering of strength. Mante gets really lucky on the recast there of Prince Dennis, and he finds Yavin with it. So he could stack his disloyal cards into the weather, which is going to be supremely powerful. Also, Sigma now playing at a loss, having to play Reaver Hunter into Fog without an answer. This is a little bit of a desperate play, it seems, by Sigma to keep himself in round 1. But I'm not too against it because he knows that Mante has to keep playing, so at least he's going to pull the Reaver Hunters out of his deck and thin his deck. The worst thing for him would be running into turn 2 and picking up some extra Reaver Hunters, but now with the removal he might do that anyway. So Mante is going to play himself out of card advantage, down 4 to 5, but he will take the round. And Kieran's going to get the round, which means that he will not return to the hand of Mante. So Scoia'tael ends up playing down 2 because Siri was on the board as well. Of course, Scoia'tael, since they choose who goes first, he's going to allow Sigma 8D and his Northern Realms deck to go first. And that will help him a little bit. He still has Yavin in hand, which he hasn't used yet. Looks like his hand is pretty solid since he's sitting on a Singram early on in this match. But Sigma, it's hard to tell without seeing his hand what he really has going on. All we know so far is that he's running some cards that are a little bit less frequent. We haven't seen Olgier come out. We haven't seen Roach come out for him. None of the promote strats that we've expected to see from Northern Realms players into the tournament. So he could be running a wide variety. The only gold card that he's put out is Ciri still. He could easily bring out a Bloody Baron this turn. He could play Shani. He could try and pull a random res onto something like Priscilla out the grave. He also has a Reaver Hunter in his grave that hasn't pulled anything. So if those other Reaver Hunters aren't in his hand, he can get some mileage out of that. But he has removal, so interesting combination from that deck coming out.
No such thing.
Mante's low on cards. He has no real option other than to drop Yave and get card advantage in the round that he's up. Looks like he has almost no chance of winning this round. Probably not going to invest much more after this turn. Oh, Dijkstra. Dijkstra comes out, breaks Ciri, which won't really matter much, because Ciri is going to drop to the grave, and she's not an ideal res target at this point because she's just a flat strength unit in round 3. Very interesting. Perhaps this was a counter strat for something like a Bork or a Geralt, which is why Sigma was able to use Radovid more loose early on in the match. Could be the case. And now it's 3-3. It looks like he should be passing here, but he's going to play one more card. Sigma can't pass because of how much strength the Singram represents, which is kind of unfortunate, but that is the power of the Singram, so he'll just have to burn a card. It's going to be Sabrina, as she comes down on the Northern Realms, on the Scoia'tael side of the board. Sigma's already shown that he has some removal in his board, so he has a way to trigger the Sabrina. The blue Mountain Commando has nothing to do, cannot replay the same copy of itself. So Mante XD will go with the pass. Sigma AD responding with the pass. 23-4 for the second round, and then we're going into a third round with one card left to draw for either side. The worst top deck, or one of the worst top decks possible for Mante XD. Very familiar with top decking Ciri, if you're normally part of my stream. And on the other side, it looks like we have a res coming out. Now, he's highlighting Stennis, which is a bit of a risky res in round 3. But it seems as if Sigma is intent on fishing for an answer. That was a pretty quick selection out of the Stennis options. Since there is no Roach in the match, no promoted Roach, playing Ciri, is fine early on here. And unless Blue Mountain Commando finds some help, which is supremely unlikely, it's just going to be a 4-strength unit joining the board. Ciri's brought back from the grave, so Sigma is kind of broadcasting the fact that he doesn't have much going on in his hand, but like I said earlier, he could have brought the Reaver Hunter back from the grave and at least had him ticking to bring out a friend. If he brings it back from the grave, it goes promoted to 6 strength, pulls out a friend. Definitely worth more value. Here comes the Singram for the finisher. We'll see if it's enough. 39-19. And just Sheila. Sheila will not be enough to win it for Sigma. So that is the end of Game 1 between Mante XD and Sigma 8D in the round of 64 for the Passiflora. I'm going to take a quick break and get the next match ready for you. And we'll be right back with match 2.